My name is Ruben, and this is the story of how my entire life crumbled in just a few weeks. Samantha and I had been together for 12 years, married for 10 of those. I worked as a mechanic at a local auto repair shop in Denver, Colorado, while she climbed the corporate ladder as a regional manager for an international consulting firm. We had what seemed like the perfect suburban life. A 3-bedroom house with a white picket fence, our golden retriever Max, stable jobs, and plans for the future that we'd discuss over Sunday morning coffee. Samantha had always been obsessed with Paris. It wasn't just a casual interest, it was a deep, burning desire that consumed her thoughts. She collected vintage postcards of the Eiffel Tower, had French cookbooks lining our kitchen shelves despite barely cooking, and spent her evenings watching French films with subtitles. Our bedroom had a Paris-themed corner with black and white photographs she'd bought from local art fairs. She'd taken 3 years of French classes at the community college, practicing pronunciation while doing dishes. "Someday, Ruben," she'd say, staring dreamily at travel magazines. "Someday we'll walk along the Seine together, have croissants at a sidewalk cafe, and watch the sunrise from Montmartre." It was her ultimate fantasy, the one thing she wanted more than anything else in the world. When Samantha turned 40 last February, that Parisian dream seemed to intensify. She started talking about it more frequently, researching flights and hotels during her lunch breaks, even suggesting we start a separate savings account just for a Paris trip. I supported her dream, even though international travel wasn't really my thing. I preferred camping in Colorado's mountains, fishing trips with my buddies, or just staying home working on classic cars in our garage. Then came that life-changing phone call in early March. Samantha burst through our front door that evening, practically vibrating with excitement. Her company had been awarded a massive contract to establish a new European division, and they wanted her to spearhead the launch of their Paris office. Not just a short business trip, a full 2-month assignment with complete autonomy, a significant bonus, all expenses paid, and a luxury corporate apartment in the 7th arrondissement. "This is it, Ruben," she screamed, jumping up and down like a teenager who'd just gotten concert tickets. "This is my chance. Paris for 2 whole months, and I'm getting paid incredibly well to live my dream." I was genuinely happy for her, even though my stomach twisted at the thought of being apart for 2 months. We'd never been separated for more than a week in our entire relationship. Max seemed to sense something was changing too. He kept looking between us with those intelligent brown eyes, his tail wagging uncertainly. But the opportunity was too incredible to pass up. This was Samantha's moment, her chance to prove herself on an international stage while living in the city she'd fantasized about for decades. We spent the next 2 weeks preparing, shopping for professional clothes suitable for Parisian business culture, getting her passport updated, researching the best neighborhoods and restaurants. The night before her departure, we made love with an intensity we hadn't experienced in years. Samantha whispered French endearments she'd learned, promising to call every day and take thousands of pictures. "I'll miss you so much," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But this is for our future, honey. When I come back, I'll probably get promoted to VP and we can finally start thinking about that bigger house, maybe even kids." The first month passed surprisingly well. Samantha called religiously every evening, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. She described her days in vivid detail, meetings with French executives, long lunches at bistros near her office, weekend explorations of different arrondissements. She sent photos constantly, her corporate apartment with its wrought iron balcony overlooking a cobblestone street, herself posing in front of famous landmarks, artfully arranged shots of café au lait and croissants. "The work is challenging but incredible," she'd tell me during our nightly calls. "The French have such a different approach to business, more relationship-focused, longer lunch meetings, but somehow more efficient. And Ruben, the city is even more beautiful than I imagined. Every morning I wake up and can't believe this is real." I threw myself into work to combat the loneliness. I took on extra projects at the shop, started restoring a 1967 Mustang I'd bought at auction, and spent evenings teaching Max new tricks. Our phone calls were the highlight of my day, even though the 8-hour time difference made scheduling difficult. But something started shifting in the second month. The calls became less frequent, shorter, more distracted. When I asked about her day, Samantha's responses grew vague and hurried. "Oh, lots of meetings. Very busy. Hey, I should go, early morning tomorrow. How's the apartment? You haven't sent photos in a while." "It's fine, honey. Same as before. Listen, I'm exhausted." I attributed the change to work stress and the final push to get the office fully operational. International business was complicated, I understood that. But something in her voice had changed. The breathless excitement was replaced by something else. Distraction? Guilt? I couldn't put my finger on it. The last week of April brought even stranger behavior. Samantha missed 2 of our scheduled calls completely, texting hours later with brief apologies about unexpected work dinners and client emergencies. When we did talk, I could hear street noise in the background, music, laughter, not sounds I'd expect from someone calling from her corporate apartment. But the real shock was still waiting for me. Samantha returned home on a rainy Thursday in early May. I'd taken the day off work to welcome her back, cleaned the house until it sparkled, even bought flowers and planned to cook her favorite meal. Max was beside himself with excitement, running circles around the entryway as we waited for her taxi. When she walked through the door, I immediately noticed she looked different. Not just the expected weight loss or tan, there was something else. She seemed nervous, jumpy, constantly checking her phone even while hugging me. Her kisses felt mechanical, obligatory. During dinner, she picked at her food and answered my questions about Paris in monosyllables. How was the flight? Long. Are you happy to be home? Sure. Tell me about the office launch. Was it successful? Yeah, mostly. This wasn't the woman who'd called me daily for 6 weeks, gushing about every detail of her Parisian adventure. This felt like a stranger wearing my wife's face. Over the next few days, the strange behavior intensified. Samantha spent hours on her phone, often stepping outside to take calls. She claimed they were work-related, wrapping up loose ends with the Paris team, but why the need for privacy? She'd become secretive about her phone, keeping it face down, taking it to the bathroom, even sleeping with it under her pillow. Sex was awkward and infrequent. When I tried to initiate intimacy, she'd claim exhaustion or jet lag, even though she'd been back for over a week. She seemed distracted during conversations, her mind clearly elsewhere. But what really started my suspicions was the money situation. I'd always handled our finances, paying bills, balancing accounts, managing investments. Samantha preferred to focus on her career while I dealt with the practical stuff. It was a system that worked well for us. So when I sat down to pay our monthly bills the following Tuesday, I expected everything to be normal. What I found instead made my blood run cold. Our joint savings account, which had contained nearly $38,000 when Samantha left for Paris, now showed a balance of just over $22,000. $16,000 had vanished in 2 months. My hands shook as I scrolled through the transaction history. Wire transfer after wire transfer to a French bank account, amounts ranging from $500 to $3,000. The memo lines contained messages that made my stomach churn. Pour mon amour, for my love, pour notre avenir, for our future. Je t'aime ma chérie, I love you my darling, jusqu'à que nous soyons ensemble, until we are together. $16,000. Our vacation fund, our emergency savings, money I'd earned working overtime and double shifts. Gone. Sent to someone in Paris with romantic messages that weren't meant for me. I printed every single transaction, my hands trembling as the pages emerged from our home printer. The evidence was undeniable. My wife of 10 years, the woman I'd trusted completely, had been systematically draining our accounts to fund, what? An affair? A second life in Paris? But the most devastating discovery was yet to come. That evening, Samantha took a long shower after claiming she felt sticky and tired. I could hear the water running, could hear her singing softly, something she used to do when she was happy. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her phone lay on our nightstand face up for once. I'd never violated her privacy in 12 years together, had never felt the need to snoop or check up on her. But $16,000 of unexplained transfers had shattered my trust completely. My heart pounded as I picked up her device. The lock screen showed several unread messages from someone named Antoine, 2 hearts. A name I'd never heard before, with a heart emoji that felt like a knife to my chest. I knew her passcode. It was our wedding anniversary, 0815, August 15th. She'd never changed it, a fact that now seemed both naive and fortunate. The messages that greeted me destroyed what remained of my world. Antoine, ma belle, I miss you so much already. When can you send the money for my rent? I'm having trouble with my landlord. Samantha, I transferred $2,000 yesterday, honey. Should be there soon. I miss you too. Being back in Denver feels like a prison. Antoine, you're an angel. I love you more than the stars above Paris. Soon we'll be together forever, yes? Samantha, I can't wait. I'm working on getting transferred back to Paris permanently. Maybe by Christmas we can be together for good. I had to sit down on our bed, my legs suddenly unable to support me. There were hundreds of messages, dating back to mid-March, just 2 weeks after Samantha arrived in Paris. I scrolled through months of intimate conversations, declarations of love, explicit photos I couldn't bear to look at for more than a second. The story revealed itself in devastating detail. Antoine was 28, a freelance photographer and artist, who'd approached Samantha at a cafe near the Louvre. He was charming, spoke perfect English with an accent that made her melt, and showed immediate interest in this beautiful American businesswoman living her Parisian dream. Their first coffee date led to dinner. Dinner led to walks along the Seine. Walks led to visits to his Montmartre apartment. Within 2 weeks they were lovers and Samantha was completely infatuated. But Antoine had problems. His photography wasn't selling well. His rent was expensive. His mother-in-law needed medical treatment. His car had broken down. Always something, always urgent, always requiring money that my wife was eager to provide. "You're saving my life, Sherry," he'd written after one particularly large transfer. "Without you I don't know what I'd do. You're not just my lover, you're my guardian angel." And Samantha had eaten it up, responding with messages that made me physically ill. "Anything for you, my darling. Money doesn't matter when you love someone the way I love you." The worst part wasn't just the affair, it was reading how she described our marriage, our life together. "My husband is a good man but he's so ordinary. He works with his hands, comes home covered in grease, wants to watch TV and drink beer. He doesn't understand art, culture, passion. He's never even wanted to travel anywhere. With you, I feel alive for the first time in years." I read until I couldn't see through my tears, until my chest felt like it was caving in. 20 years of friendship, 12 years of relationship, 10 years of marriage reduced to ordinary. I wasn't just being cheated on, I was being dismissed, minimized, treated like an obstacle to overcome rather than a human being worth considering. But even then, the cruelest revelation was still ahead. The shower was still running when I found the most recent messages, sent just hours after Samantha's return to Denver. "Antoine, I can't believe you're back in that boring place with that boring man. When are you coming back to me?" "Samantha, I don't know yet but I'm working on it. The company is talking about making the Paris position permanent. I could be back by fall. Antoine, I need you to send more money, ma chérie. The landlord is threatening eviction, and I have a gallery showing next month that could change everything. Just $5,000 to hold me over until you return." "Samantha, that's a lot, Antoine. I'm running out of explanations for the transfers. Antoine, please, my love. This could be our future. Once I sell some paintings I'll pay you back everything. We'll have our dream life in Paris together." The last message was sent just 2 hours ago. "Samantha, I'll transfer $3,000 tomorrow. I love you so much it hurts." I set the phone down with shaking hands and walked to our home office, where I kept important documents. I pulled out a manila folder and began gathering papers. Our marriage certificate, joint account information, insurance policies, the deed to our house. Then I opened my laptop and did something I'd never imagined I'd need to do. I researched divorce attorneys in Denver. But the story was far from over. The next morning, Samantha received an urgent call from her company. There were complications with the Paris office that required immediate attention. Technical issues, client concerns, staffing problems that only she could resolve. They needed her back in Paris within 48 hours for what they estimated would be a week-long troubleshooting mission. I watched my wife's face as she took the call, saw the mixture of fake concern and barely contained excitement. She was going back to him. "I'm so sorry, honey," she said after hanging up, not meeting my eyes. "I know this is terrible timing but they really need me. The Paris launch is too important to let it fail now." "Of course," I replied calmly. "You have to go. Your career comes first." She looked at me with surprise and relief. "Really? You're not angry?" "Why would I be angry? This is your big opportunity." I helped her pack, made her favorite breakfast, even drove her to the airport. I kissed her goodbye at the departure gate and told her I'd miss her. She had no idea it was the last time she'd ever see me as her husband. The moment I got home from the airport, I called in sick to work and started making phone calls. First, I contacted James Morrison, a divorce attorney whose billboard I'd seen on my commute for years but never imagined I'd need. His receptionist squeezed me in for an emergency consultation that afternoon. Morrison was a no-nonsense man in his 50s who'd clearly handled his share of infidelity cases. I brought the printed bank statements and screenshots I'd taken of Samantha's phone conversations. "This is pretty straightforward," he said after reviewing everything. "Colorado is a no-fault divorce state, but the financial misconduct will definitely work in your favor for asset division. She used marital funds for an extramarital affair, That's dissipation of marital assets. We can absolutely recover that money. I don't want to drag this out, I told him. I just want it finished. I understand. We can file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences, but we'll document the financial impropriety to protect your interests. How do you want to handle telling her? I've been thinking about that. I want to be gone when she gets back. Can we serve her with papers after I've moved out? Morrison nodded. We can arrange that. Very clean, very final. Sometimes it's better that way. My next call was to my buddy Mike from high school who'd gone into real estate. I need a place, Mike. Something small but nice, pet-friendly for Max. Can you help me out? Jesus, Ruben, what's going on? I'll explain later. Right now I just need to find somewhere to live. Mike showed me 3 apartments that afternoon. I chose a 1-bedroom unit in a modern complex about 20 minutes from my work, close enough for convenience, far enough to start fresh. The rent was steep for just me, but I'd be saving money on utilities, groceries, and apparently no longer funding my wife's Parisian lover. I signed the lease that evening and arranged to move in over the weekend. Friday morning, I rented a U-Haul truck and called in another sick day. Moving out of the house where we'd built our life together was surreal and heartbreaking. I took only what was unquestionably mine: clothes, personal items, tools, my collection of vintage car parts, books, and photo albums from before our marriage. I left the wedding photos on the walls but took pictures of Max as a puppy, my parents' portrait, gifts from my siblings. Everything else, the furniture we'd chosen together, kitchen appliances, decorations, I left behind. I didn't want anything that would remind me of the life we'd shared. Max was confused by the packing process. He kept bringing me his toys as if trying to help or maybe asking if we were going on a trip. His intelligence was both a blessing and a curse. He knew something significant was happening but couldn't understand what. We're starting over, boy, I told him, scratching behind his ears as we loaded his dog bed into the truck. Just you and me from now on. Saturday evening, I was officially moved into my new apartment. It felt empty and strange but also liberating. No more walking on eggshells, no more wondering what Samantha was really doing, no more being called ordinary behind my back. Sunday morning, I returned to our old house one final time. I arranged the divorce papers neatly on the kitchen table where Samantha always opened her mail. Beside them, I placed printed copies of all the bank statements showing the transfers to Antoine, along with screenshots of their text conversations that I'd photographed with my own phone. Finally, I wrote a brief note on our household stationery. Samantha, I know about Antoine. I know about the money. I know about everything. The divorce papers are filed with the court. My attorney will contact yours. Please don't try to reach me. There's nothing left to discuss. I hope your Parisian dream was worth it. Ruben. Yes, I took Max. He's always been more mine anyway. I left my house key on the counter next to the papers and walked out the front door for the last time. But the story's most shocking twist was still to come. I'd given my phone number only to my attorney, my boss, and my immediate family, with strict instructions that no one should share my whereabouts with Samantha. I needed space to process the betrayal and figure out my next steps without her tearful apologies or desperate explanations. My sister Karen was my main source of information about Samantha's reaction. They'd become close over the years, and Samantha apparently called Karen within hours of finding the papers, sobbing hysterically and begging for help reaching me. She's devastated, Ruben, Karen told me over dinner at my new apartment Tuesday evening. She keeps saying she made a terrible mistake, that she never meant for things to go so far. She wants to explain everything. There's nothing to explain, I replied, watching Max explore his new surroundings. She chose him over me. She chose Paris over Denver. She chose her fantasy over our reality. The only thing I want to know is when she signs the papers. Karen studied my face. You're really done? Just like that. Karen, she didn't just cheat. She fell in love with someone else. She spent our money on him for months. She was planning to leave me anyway, she just wanted to have her exit strategy in place first. I'm just speeding up the process. What I didn't tell Karen was that I'd been doing some research on Antoine Dubois, Samantha's French lover. It hadn't been difficult. Samantha's phone had contained plenty of details about him, including his last name, his address, even photos of his supposed artwork. A few hours on social media and French public records websites had revealed some interesting information about Monsieur Dubois. Thursday morning, Morrison called with updates. Your wife's attorney wants to schedule mediation. She's apparently very eager to settle quickly and quietly. What's her position? She's not contesting the divorce, admits to the affair, and is willing to pay back the money she transferred to France. Her lawyer made it sound like she's desperate to make amends. And if she can't pay it back immediately? We can arrange a payment plan, or she could sign over her claim to part of the house equity. Either way, you'll be made whole financially. That evening, Karen called with more updates. Samantha's been trying to reach Antoine since she got back to Paris, but apparently his phone number is disconnected. She went to his apartment, but the landlord said he moved out last week without leaving a forwarding address. I felt a grim satisfaction hearing this news. My research had been correct. She's panicking, Ruben. She thinks something happened to him. She's been walking around Montmartre showing his photo to shopkeepers and cafe owners. Did you tell her what I found out about him? No, you said not to interfere. But, are you going to tell me? I'd been debating whether to share my discoveries. On one hand, Samantha deserved to know the truth about the man she'd destroyed our marriage for. On the other hand, maybe the painful reality was exactly what she needed to experience. Antoine Dubois isn't a struggling artist, I finally told Karen. He's a professional con man who targets wealthy foreign women. I found 3 news articles from French papers over the past 2 years about women who filed complaints against him for romance fraud. He has aliases, fake social media profiles, even uses different apartments depending on which victim he's working. Karen was quiet for a long moment. Oh my God. Samantha has no idea? She thinks she's living a romantic fairy tale. She has no idea that Antoine probably isn't even his real name, that the apartment she visited was likely rented by the week, that everything he told her was calculated manipulation. Are you going to tell her? Why should I? She made her choice. Let her live with the consequences. But even I wasn't prepared for how devastating those consequences would become. The following Monday, Morrison called with surprising news. Your wife's attorney contacted me this morning. Apparently she's back in Denver and wants to expedite the divorce proceedings. She's agreeing to all our terms, you keep the house, she pays back the money she transferred, split custody of the dog. She's back already? I thought she was supposed to be in Paris for a week. According to her lawyer, the business issues were resolved faster than expected. I suspected there was more to the story, and Karen confirmed my suspicions when she called that evening. Samantha came to see me today, Karen said. Ruben, she looks terrible. Like she hasn't slept or eaten in days. She's lost weight, her hair is a mess, and she's been crying so much her eyes are swollen shut. What did she want? She wanted me to give you a message. She found out about Antoine, who he really is. Apparently, she went to the police in Paris to report him missing, and they showed her a file of complaints from other women. She realized she'd been scammed. I felt a mixture of vindication and, surprisingly, pity. How much did she lose? Everything she transferred to him, plus more. She said he convinced her to max out her credit cards before she left Paris the first time, and then got her to take cash advances when she went back. She's probably $30,000 in debt, Ruben. $30,000. Our entire savings plus credit card debt that would take her years to pay off. For a fantasy that was never real. She knows she destroyed your marriage for nothing, Karen continued. She keeps saying she understands why you left, that she deserves everything that's happening to her. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for Samantha. She'd been manipulated by an expert, taken advantage of during what should have been the experience of a lifetime. But another part of me, the larger part, remembered those text messages where she called our marriage boring, called me ordinary, planned to leave me for her Parisian lover. She hadn't just been scammed by Antoine. She'd actively chosen to betray our marriage, our trust, our future together. The fact that her chosen replacement had turned out to be a fraud didn't negate the fact that she'd been willing to throw away 12 years for someone she'd known for 8 weeks. Tell her I'll sign whatever papers she needs to finalize everything quickly, I told Karen. But I don't want to see her or talk to her. This chapter of my life is closed. The divorce was finalized on a gray October morning. Morrison handled everything, I didn't even have to appear in court. Samantha signed over her claim to the house, agreed to pay back the money, via monthly installments over 3 years, and didn't contest any of our terms. According to Karen, she'd taken a transfer to her company's Atlanta office, a demotion from her previous position, but it got her out of Denver and away from the memories of what she'd lost. She was living in a small apartment, driving a used car, and working with a credit counselor to manage her debt. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt empty. That evening, I sat in my apartment with Max curled up beside me on the couch. The divorce decree lay on my coffee table, official proof that my marriage was over, that I was officially single again at 34. Max looked up at me with those wise brown eyes, as if he knew this was a significant moment. I scratched behind his ears and realized he was the only thing from my old life that I'd kept, the only relationship that hadn't been tainted by betrayal. "Just you and me now, boy," I said quietly. "We'll figure out what comes next." Outside my window, Denver was settling into autumn. Leaves were changing colors, the air was getting crisp, and somewhere across town my ex-wife was learning to live with the consequences of choosing her fantasy over our reality. I'd learned something important through this experience. Sometimes the person you think you know best is the one who can hurt you most deeply. Samantha hadn't just cheated on me, she'd revealed that she'd never really known or appreciated who I was. To her, I was just ordinary, predictable, insufficient. But ordinary isn't worthless. Predictable isn't boring. Being a mechanic who works with his hands doesn't make someone less valuable than a photographer who works with lies. 6 months later I was doing well. I'd gotten a promotion at work, started taking night classes in business management, and even begun dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee meetings and casual dinners with women who didn't see being grounded and reliable as character flaws. Max had adapted beautifully to our new life, making friends with other dogs in our apartment complex and clearly enjoying being the center of attention instead of competing with a distracted, phone-obsessed owner. I never heard from Samantha directly, though Karen occasionally shared updates. She was struggling financially but seemed to be getting professional help for what Karen described as some kind of breakdown after the Antoine situation. She'd apparently joined a support group for fraud victims and was slowly rebuilding her sense of self-worth. I felt sorry for her, but I didn't miss her. The woman I'd married, or thought I'd married, had been a mirage. The real Samantha was someone who could fall in love with a stranger after 2 weeks, drain our life savings for romantic gestures, and plan to abandon our marriage without a conversation or counselor or any attempt to work on our problems. That wasn't someone I could spend my life with, even if Antoine had been genuine. As I write this story, it's been almost 2 years since Samantha left for Paris. I'm in a serious relationship now with Lisa, a nurse who appreciates my stability and thinks my mechanical skills are impressive rather than ordinary. We're taking things slowly, building trust carefully, and she's never once made me feel insufficient or boring. Max adores her, which I take as a good sign. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd confronted Samantha directly instead of just leaving. Would she have chosen me over Antoine? Would we have worked things out? But then I remember those text messages, the casual dismissal of our entire life together, the months of systematic lying and financial betrayal. Someone who could do all that and feel justified in doing it wasn't someone I could trust again. Samantha got her Paris dream, just not the way she'd imagined. Instead of romantic walks with her young lover, she got expensive lessons about the difference between fantasy and reality. Instead of a fairy tale ending, she got debt, humiliation, and the knowledge that she'd thrown away something real for something that was never there. I got my self-respect back, a fresh start, and the knowledge that I deserved better than being someone's backup plan while they chased their fantasies. It wasn't the ending either of us expected when she boarded that plane to Paris, but it was the ending our choices had made inevitable. Sometimes dreams come true in the worst possible way. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.